Welcome, perceptive reader, to Poeartistry Gold number 98. Please, after listening to this podcast, I want you to keep two names in mind, and you can do a research or just a search on the JamesPoeartistry.online website to listen more on the subject or topics of Job and of Paul. You see, one thing about Job that you can probably pick up yourself, I certainly pick it up, is that even though the man was experiencing grief, and not only experienced grief, but he expressed himself uh, quite a bit about it. And so let me tell you, that was quite all right. And even though he expressed himself about it, you could still see from his expressions about his life, what was going on, that he still had a thankfulness within his heart as well and in his mind. I would say that he still had a good condition of the heart, even though he was expressing all his grief. And think about this as well. It's it's something that just goes to my thought or in my mind, that even for his enemy to want to prove a point, look how he hurt his own family members in the process. You see what I'm saying? Family members going about their business. That's the way I'm going to share it. But look what he did to Job's children, you see? And God saw what was going on. So the whole point is to prove his point, Job's enemy and God's enemy, he did a lot of things that were just straight up wrong to try to prove he was right in trying to talk about somebody's personality or character. Isn't that interesting? So, Job was still thankful. Paul was also thankful. And yet, we see moments in the Bible where Paul straight up broke out the soapbox, if you will, and I'm saying in a respectful way, to still give thanks for all the knowledge that he did acquire, along with the forgiveness from the Lord Jesus Christ. Paul really did. He broke out his credentials, and while he was doing that, you see, while he was explaining it to anybody who would listen to his letters or read his letters, or anybody that he was preaching to during those moments, you see, as fully expressing himself. Hey, Paul not only really did have the credentials, but he was thankful for them. And you know what? He wasn't going to let anybody else tell him anything different from what he really did know. What he knew about God, um, what commission of preaching that he had, how he was going to treat people with goodness. You see, you can actually see from all his letters. You know what I mean. You could see from his letters that the opposers of him, the opposers of the preaching work, they were opposers of goodness. Period. It is every every follower of Christ's responsibility, to whatever measure of strength they may have to do it. It is still their commission to spread good out in the world, to tell about God, to also express God's likes and dislikes and judgments, to do all of that without resorting to violence and strong arm tactics. That's the reality of it. So if you don't like somebody's lifestyle, then you know what? You just don't go attack them. If you have a high position of authority, that still doesn't mean that it overrides what God said to you, especially as one of his followers, how you still treat people, you see. in general with the two greatest commandments. And so it's knowledge like this that people have done an in-depth study of God's word, the Bible, and have that clay of a heart, a good condition of the heart, you see, that the Bible gives. They realize this, and they're thankful, and they realize if they want to talk about something, even if they want to complain about something, they can. Um, if they want to cry, they can. If they want to cry out to God, most certainly they can. All of that is an aspect of our personality, and we don't have to prove our grief to no one. We don't have to stop doing goodness because someone else has a philosophical, I'm always making up the word philosophical or philosophizing or whatever way of the way that you're supposed to treat humans. See, uh, you may be one person like this. I've known persons who were just very, very giving at times. And so, yeah, there were moments where they came to where they just said, well, during this time, I can't give the way that I may like to. Now, the people who were reasonable and understood that, they just left the situation alone. But one thing for certain, nobody around, even the person who was helping them to see that maybe this person, you know what I mean, doesn't need as much help as they may be claiming to want or whatever their time. Either way, that sometimes they got to know when to say when, even if that person did not take their advice, they still knew that that was as far as the aspect goes there. You see, what they could do to get the person to listen to them or what have you. Maybe they could, could try again. Yet, through it all, teaching people about God's goodness and about their own value, you don't have to strong arm anybody. And really, if there are individuals who literally feel that they can go and intrude into another person's life and even go to the extent of what Job's enemy did to his family, you see what I'm saying? That is not the authority that has been given to us down in these days that we live in. That's a fact. Now, it has been now my observation, because I'm sure God wanted me to see this, but that is what some have done. Sure, you got culture, you got caste systems, you got all sorts of stuff going on. You got maltreatment, bad treatment of persons and things of the nature. And I'm here to tell you today that just because it goes on, it doesn't mean that it's supposed to go on. Just because somebody has authority, it doesn't give them the right to abuse you. It doesn't give them the right to misuse their authority, misuse the good teachings of the Bible to control your life. And you're certainly not supposed to place some type of rules or some type of scheme to run the person away from God, or to tell people this person had turned their back on God and the person never did, and that the person was in peace, you see. But that's what has happened sometimes to people's reputations. Persons to say that this individual left God and person didn't leave God at all. Things happen like life. And sometimes some of the best ways to restore a friendship or relationship, if it was lost back, was not to hound or harass the person, but to just give them what they need and not try to use some other methods that's still just going to make you or even an institution look like a better person, because they're not in the way or the methods that they use to get there. You don't tear down one individual to make yourself look good. And remember, keep it basically in the environment and experiences of what I'm sharing with you here is that really you have disagreements and arguments at times. But see, there should still always be something between two people that end up resolving it between themselves. And if they can't resolve it, then they ask persons or with the qualifications, you see, who can really do it to help them to mediate it, if you will, resolve it. You don't get whole communities and things of that together. Let me say again, they may do it, but I'm here to tell you today it's wrong that they're doing it. Now, you can decide for yourself whether I'm telling you the truth or not on that. So, through it all, I want to emphasize we continue to need people to speak when they want to speak. If persons want to complain about a truthful situation, then they can even complain. If they still complain, it doesn't mean they're not thankful. If they're crying for justice, it doesn't mean that they lack faith. I'm just here to tell you right now and again today that there are some persons, again, in positions of responsibilities that they have had that to sit up there and to hijack them from out of God's care just to prove their own point. I'm here to tell you, you better have a very, very a good reason for doing it because people do it. And really, I know of some of the reasons that these persons did it, but I'm here to still tell you again today that, you know, you will come to a better conclusion of why this was wrong, on why this was a sin. You see, to do this to an individual in this way when you are so-called on the right side of matters. I say again, I know what I'm talking about. Now, that's another reason why I feel like I could be thankful the same way as Job and as Paul. Because of the simple fact that you expect, we know that people who don't like us going to attack us, but I tell you what, when it comes to a family member, persons of the faith are doing it, see, that's where the institution, so to speak, of God is not supposed to tolerate that within their own ranks, though, to tolerate the dysfunction on this level. People who don't believe in God, people out in the world, or what have you, so to speak, as they say, okay. But definitely not the betrayers to continue to be betraying you. That's why Paul said he would address persons who were doing that to him. But today, all persons have to do is just hide behind their credentials, hide behind their authority, and still want to say that they're developing the good condition of the heart when they're actually not only ignoring, as Jesus would say, his brothers, or I'll say even his sheep, you see, but actually contributing and watching to beat them up. The obligation is to help them, not to sit up there and let them experience conditions where, again, they're being abused. Stuff that happened even Joel's family has happened to theirs. All for what? I know what they say, but I told you what it always seems to boil down to is whether they feel you are expendable or not, whether you fit their criteria of how God would love you in this way or not. And definitely, if this person, even if you had disagreements with persons in the past, now if that person ends up becoming a lover of Christ, a follower of Christ, or what have you, then guess what? Then guess what? Then you still have no business praying that that person ends up dying in hell when they really did or come to the conclusion that they are repentant and Jesus has accepted that. And see, and there are moments, and I've seen moments like this before where persons have really had disagreements, and yet for brief times, for this reason or that reason or what have you, and I've mentioned examples of this before, they still, could at the very least wish one another well in a sincere way, even though they may not hang out as much today. What I'm here to still tell you again is, and I'm stating this for the record, for some of you, if you do take it upon yourself to try to control a person's life to a certain degree and say, they can't do this, they can't talk to this person, or they can't do that, and you let that person be controlled in that way, and that person suffer financial hardship, ailments, and then death, whether you like it or not, you are going against Matthew chapter 18 on what Jesus said about stumbling persons. You don't have the right to do that to a person in that way. You got a problem with it? Write me formally. Don't be a coward. And I will respond back to you. So the point is, you're not going to keep misleading these people on how we're really supposed to treat one another. And you wasn't supposed to hijack God's prophecy. You wasn't supposed to hijack his people for your own selfish and philosophizing. I keep saying that means you weren't supposed to do that. So, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the knowledge. I want you all to continue to be thankful for the knowledge. But if you got to strong arm somebody to try to make a point or what have you, you know what? How do you not know that that very person is still even on the same view or level that you have with God, even though they don't dress like you? Continue to be thankful for your knowledge and good condition of the heart, perceptive reader. This was Poeartistry Gold number 98. Take wonderful care of yourself.